Howdy there folks, and welcome to Bolts for Bucks. Today we're going to compare the Winchester XPR bolt action rifle against the new Gen 2 Ruger American. First, let's go to the range and see how they performed. Okay, we are going to shoot Ruger Gen 2 at 200 yards, 300, and then we'll go 4. Just go 1.5 MOA for 200, just that parallax, the middle gong there. All right, first round hit. Velocity on that, 27.55 again. All right, 300 yards, Ruger American Gen 2. We're gonna go 4 MOA. 150 grain SSTs are flying good out of this gun. We'll go on the circle all the way to the left. First round hit. Velocity on that was 27.50. All right, 400 yards, Ruger American Gen 2. I'm actually guessing holdover. Hitting them though. Woo, way high. But we'll shoot it per group anyway. About maybe MOA and a quarter. Ooh, about an MOA and a half there. All right, now that we're back from the range, let's go over the fit, feel, and function of each rifle, compare those, and then go over my opinions and results. First, we're gonna take a look at the Ruger American Gen 2 standard factory stock. Has about a 1-inch thick, curved recoil pad, some hexagonal cuts in it, very soft and pliable. The Winchester XPR, about 3/4 to 1/2 inch thick, got a little bit of a curve to it, and it's very soft. In my opinion, neither here nor there, right? Very similar. Polymer on both. A little bit of a cheaper sound on the Winchester XPR in my opinion. You got a comb raise or rise built into the Ruger American Gen 2 stock. You don't on the Winchester XPR. You have a splatter coat paint job for grippiness on the Ruger American Gen 2. You don't on the Winchester XPR, although some of them I believe come with soft touch. The stock on the Winchester XPR is very traditional. It has a sling swivel stud underneath. This one has a recessed sling swivel stud. The grip on this, very similar. No real difference there. You have a little bit more of a palm swell at the bottom of your hand on the Ruger American Gen 2. Coming forward, you have a plastic trigger guard. That's one part of the stock on the Ruger American Gen 2. You have a plastic trigger guard on the Winchester XPR, but it's a separate piece with the mag well. I like that so that if this cracks, you don't have to replace the whole stock. The mag release is in the front of the magazine on the Winchester XPR. It takes a magazine, but it's not actually flush. It sticks out just a little bit. Very, very similar to a Tikka T3X magazine, single stack, but I do like it. Works very, very well, easy to operate. On the Ruger American Gen 2, you have a separate piece that goes in here with a little lever right here to release the magazine. Now you have to remove that roll pin basically to get to the action screws to remove the barrel action from the receiver, which I don't like. And then I don't like that the mag release is kind of small and hard for me to operate. Pro would be that this takes AICS magazines, or it can, and the Winchester XPR, at least in this configuration, does not. Both come with Cerakoted receivers and barrels. The Ruger American Gen 2 and the XPR have a lever on the left side of the receiver to remove the bolt. The bolts on these are incredibly similar. They look almost identical, like you could almost mix them up. 3 locking lugs, a little extractor in the lug, and then a plunger ejector. And they both have 70-degree bolt throws. Bolt runs just a tiny bit quieter in the new Ruger American Gen 2 and a little bit smoother. The bolt knob on the Ruger American Gen 2 is easier to remove. Comes with a nice tactile bolt knob on there, but very, very similar. Cocked indicator at the rear of both bolts. In fact, they're so much alike, it's hard to compare them. I like this Blacksmith gun safe. It features a biometric fingerprint scanner, a keypad, physical keys, and much more. Save 20% using promo code BUCKSBS20 at checkout. Link in the description below. The receiver on the Ruger American though looks like it's got more cuts to it, looks a little bit more cool, I guess you could say, whereas the Winchester XPR receiver looks kind of like it was just machined out of bar stock more or less, but they are very, very similar. The Winchester XPR, this one did not come with a 20 MOA Picatinny rail, whereas the Ruger American Gen 2 does come with a Picatinny rail. Some of the Winchester XPRs might. The barrel on the Ruger American Gen 2 is spiral fluted, comes with a radial muzzle brake that's also Cerakoted. as well. Whereas the Winchester XPR, just a regular like light sporter contour barrel, and most of them actually don't come threaded still, which is something they definitely need to change. But it is Cerakoted, and the barrel on the Winchester XPR is free floated, but it's a very tight free float, and the stock definitely has play at the end, has a front sling swivel stud. Feels pretty cheap though, to be honest, whereas the Ruger American has a lot of reinforcement down the barrel channel, feels better in the hand, more rigid, and it also has a front sling swivel stud. But I do like the fit and feel of the Ruger American Gen 2 stock much better than the Winchester XPR, but I like the trigger guard and the magazine system of the Winchester better, and here's why. The Ruger American Gen 2, when the bolt's forward, it's difficult sometimes to seat the magazine when it's loaded, or it doesn't see it at all. And also, there's been some reported extraction, rejection, and feeding issues with the Ruger American Gen 2. I haven't experienced that with the Winchester. I'm not saying it can't happen, it's just I haven't experienced that. However, that said, Ruger American Gen 2s and even the Gen 1s, in my opinion, almost always shoot more accurately out of the box, or at least there's a lot more evidence of that than the Winchester. So the Winchester tends to not shoot all that accurate out of the box compared to the Ruger American Gen 2 in my experience, and when I've researched it, that seems to be the common report that I hear. I think I flinched on that last one. It likes that 150 SSTs, I believe. Probably right at 3/4 MOA, maybe 1 MOA. He's got some kick to it without a muzzle brake. Hold that one. The Ruger American Gen 2 receiver has 2 cuts in it, and these basically bedding blocks that are metal, almost like a V-block bedding cut, marry up against the front and rear action screw to create your bedding system. The recoil lug design on the Winchester XPR is kind of similar to a Tikka. It has a front cutout in the receiver, and then it has a separate piece of metal that sits in the stock that basically goes into or marries up with the cut in the receiver to create your front recoil lug. I definitely prefer the recoil lug system of the Ruger American Gen 2, as it has 2 V-block bedding spots that are metal, and the front action screw goes through one and the rear action screw goes one. I feel like that's a lot better, more firm foundation, and probably a foundation that over time will last longer and not shift as much as a Winchester XPR. There we go. Let's go ahead and take a look. The Winchester has an MOA curved blade trigger here. It's not adjustable. It's super, super crisp and clean though, like crazy crisp and clean. No creep, almost no over travel, but it breaks at 3.5 pounds. The Ruger American Gen 2 is usually adjustable. This particular one didn't want to adjust for me. And it has a center blade with a curved trigger blade, and it breaks right at 3.5 pounds. In theory, the Ruger American Gen 2 trigger is better because you should be able to adjust it down a little bit lighter. But between these two, I would have to say the Winchester trigger's as good or better. Also, the Ruger American Gen 2 has a 3-position safety. All the way to the rear locks the bolt, 1 forward you can release it, all the way forward you can fire. The Winchester XPR has a similar design in a way. All the way to the rear locks the bolt, you can't fire. 1 forward you can fire. It also has a little tab in front of the safety. If you push that down, you can manipulate the bolt but not fire. So essentially as a 3-position safety as well. This one's on the side, whereas the Ruger American's down the tang, but they're both very nice. Safety designs very, very similar in functionality. If I was going to pick between the Winchester XPR and the Ruger American Gen 2, I'd probably still pick the Ruger American Gen 2 because way more aftermarket support, tons of chassis and stock options on the market already. At the end of the day, they generally shoot more accurately than the Winchester XPRs do. Hope you enjoyed this comparison of the Ruger American Gen 2 versus the Winchester XPR. Thanks for watching Bullets for Bucks. Check out this next video and subscribe.